Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
The economy is getting stronger, banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com. Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Ezra Eckhardt and Tom Johnson, the past, present, and future of STCU. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
There's been a lot out there, the excitement of this transition, and Tom, I believe you came on board as President CEO in 2010, yes. I believe. Mm-hmm. So a 7-year run. Right. Ezra, you're coming on. A lot has occurred for STCU in the last 7 years. Why don't you give us a little background? There's been significant strides. Give us a snapshot of that.
Sure. Well, just the very high level, we've just about doubled in size. So remember the formula of sevens. Mm-hmm. If you can compound some money at 7% for 7 years, you've doubled it.
Right.
So that's essentially what's happened on my tenure, and it's been a great run. So we have about twice as many members. Today we have 175,000 members of STCU. We have nearly $2.7 billion in assets, and back at that date that I took over, we were at about just under 1.4. So
substantial increase.
Substantial growth.
And you are the biggest credit union in the inland Northwest.
Right.
Where does that put you in the state of Washington?
Third largest in the state of Washington. So we have BECU, which is one of the top 4 credit unions in the country, and then Washington State Employees Credit Union is within a hair's breadth of us. They're just slightly larger than us. They operate out of Olympia.
What do you think the secret idea or the magic, if you will, in that 7-year tenure? How were you able to accomplish that? What are some of the themes that you were able to put into action that brought you to where you are today?
Well, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily new for STCU, but I really focused on our employees. And my belief has been that if we treat our employees well and support them and trust them to do the right thing, they will do that for our members. So you might hear an organization say, well, we're really focused on our customer.
Right.
You know, from my point of view, I've not been focused on our member. I've been focused on our employees.
And then ultimately how they treat
my
them.
belief is that they turn around and treat our members well, and they develop trust with those members. And if you're a member, user of STCU, and you trust the person across the table from you, then you trust STCU.
Essentially, you're empowering the employee to carry that overall fundamental theme onto the members.
Right.
Well, it seems like it's really worked.
It has.
And Ezra coming on board, long history, Sterling Bank, Umpqua, West Point grad, and ultimately a native of Spokane.
Yes.
How do you think you being a Spokane native contributes, I think, to this transition in terms of the members as well as employees really getting on board with this transition?
The easiest way for me to sum that up is I completely believe in the brand message of the organization, Here for Good. And, I am committed to the Inland Northwest as a region. And, that's right. My family's been here for over 100 years. I've got deep roots in Spokane, but really around the Northwest. My father's side of the family was from Valley, Washington, and Odessa, Washington, and and my mom's side of the family has been in Spokane for 5 generations now. So, for me, this is really about how do I help make the place I want to be better.
Right.
And that falls directly in line with STCU's vision of Here for Good. And so easy for me to sort of jump in with 2 feet and become a part of the organization. And Tom did a very great job of outlining the concept of supporting employees. And part of my job is just to not screw that up. And the model is there, and we've got a great team, and they know exactly how to build followership with our members, and we're committed to the Northwest.
Well, in my understanding, in terms of taking that baton, if you will, and jumping forth with the successes of Tom's, it sounds like you've been on the road quite a bit, whether it be here locally or around the state, North Idaho, meeting your current employees and members. How has that process worked for you?
Great fun. Great fun. Yeah, we jumped in the car and laid out a plan to hit all 21 of the branches, and we did that. And then we had a little follow-up sequence that took us back to Sandpoint and to Newport. A few weeks ago, on Giving Tuesday, delivered a number of significant checks to 6 nonprofits, 3 here in Spokane, 1 in Coeur d'Alene, 1 in Sandpoint, 1 in Newport, as part of the Giving Tuesday events.
Well, I think as you guys are describing how you've really made an effort to go out on the road, if you will, and be in front of I believe you had 400 employees, and now you're at 650. Did you have 400 when you originally came on board?
We were at about 375. Yeah.
Okay, and about 650 now,
650
I believe.
Now, right.
I mean, so you going out on the road and being in front of these individuals, I think that really does show a real caring and affirmative effort that you're coming on board and trying to really push this thing forward.
Well, and 650 is a large team for many organizations in Spokane.
Absolutely.
But my perspective is it's also small enough where we can literally know everybody inside the organization. And to Tom's point about trusting the people on your left and right, and if our employees trust each other, they're building that confidence that then is shared with the members. And part of the secret of our success is that confidence that we have within the team around rallying on some goals and objectives, and understanding that if I run into an obstacle, I've got another team member there that's going to help me be successful.
Right. Well, I really do think one thing that I've certainly noticed over the last decade, just as a Spokane native myself and in business, is from I'm going to use the word marketing standpoint, but really I think the quality of what STCU does is the association that STCU has done with our community, directly with the community, whether it's, Tom, as you mentioned, nonprofits, the respective school districts, small business. The way that you have presented and contributed to this area has really been noticed. And I talked to Lance Kistler recently and Andrea Parrish actually about how well I think STCU has done that. It stands out. If you're thinking about many respective banks that do a good job in our area, STCU definitely stands out as, dare I say, community-minded, if that sounds too cliche. But you come away thinking STCU really does care about this area. I actually spoke with my wife about the fact that you both were coming on the show, and she said, well, make sure, Ezra, they're going to keep doing the same type of marketing associated with our community. And I said, I think they probably will. But that goes to compliments to what you guys have done.
Yeah. Ezra, you should share your story that your wife came home and shared with you about.
Yeah. So, I think this falls directly in line with the Here for Good piece, but I've had a number of different community-related jobs, and I've been active with GSI for 12 years and Airport Board, and a number of other local entities, Habitat for Humanity, Gonzaga Prep, and my wife kind of has a standing rule of I don't want to be involved in your thing, and
That's
so
your thing, isn't it?
that's
You
your
take
thing,
care of it, yeah.
and so now our things have crossed a little bit because she works at Mullen Road School as the
Okay.
school counselor,
Yep.
and I'm going to say within probably the first 3 or 4 weeks, of sort of the introduction, she came home and said, gosh, I've run into 3 or 4 teachers at the school, and they just love STCU.
Yep.
They come up to me, they talk about it, and she said, when you worked at Sterling, people liked it, but nobody talked about how they loved it.
Exactly.
And then when you went to Umpqua, nobody talked about it at all.
Yeah,
and at STCU, it's the first thing top of mind. And our commitment to the community is to become the most beloved financial institution, and that concept of love is important for us. And I think that our members are a part of our family, and this is our community, and we are here to help you and navigate your life journey, and we want to make things easy for you, and that's our commitment.
Well, I'm glad you shared that story because I think that is what I'm trying to describe too, and somewhat ironic. I think some of our listeners might think to think of financial institution and love or that connection, but the reality is STCU actually has accomplished that. It's crossing that normal line, if you will, of marketing, that you are one with those members, you're part of the community. That's interesting that she said that.
I had the same type of experience with my spouse, who also was a teacher, and at the time when I
My
became
spouse is a teacher.
CEO, she kept hearing it over and over and over again, and some at school, but some at church also. And finally, I came home one night, and she said, well, I don't know. She said, I have never had a need to love my bank, but everybody in this town seems to love STCU.
Yep.
So
Well,
it's
you're doing
common
something
experience.
right, and I would say some of that is probably an intangible, and not necessarily not knowing what it actually is, but it's the algorithm of putting it
Right.
all together.
Right.
So
It's part of the brand.
yeah,
It's a complicated thing.
yeah, I'm fascinated with that because even previous to this transition, I've watched closely, and I think STCU does a good job on that. Let's take a short break and come right back and talk about the STCU transition.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm Mike Marzetta from Mind's Eye. One of my life's goals is to never grow up, never have to grow up. What could be worse? My wife, Christy, and I had kind of 2 fundamental values that kind of led to Mind's Eye's creation. We wanted to make the difference in lives of kids, and we wanted to have fun doing it. Mind's Eye Robotics is a high-quality, hands-on STEM education experience. We try to give the teacher a nice high-tech set of tools. We teach the teachers how to implement the curriculum in the lab, and 90% of it is them building, programming, formatting, designing, inventing. We want Mind's Eye to be cooler than Xbox. We want the kids to go there and come home from school every day and go, wow, I did the coolest thing today, and not necessarily know that they've learned all this stuff. Kids are very passionate about it. You can see that they're having fun, they're excited, they're energetic, they're in the zone. I hear a lot of it, how do I get my kids to do homework? Well, you make it fun, and they come in before class starts, and they stay late, and they're not thinking the extra credit. They're thinking, I'm having too much fun, and I can't put this dang project down. It's college level stuff that they're learning. Change and learning are synonymous, and if you don't change, you get left behind. You got new companies emerging using new technologies and have a high demand for high skilled labor. They're good paying jobs. It'd be great to just hire some local folk to fill those. I think that we've got that kind of potential here in Spokane. We're graduating some great kids. When STCU supports learning, they're supporting our future. So many other organizations out there are so bottom line profit focused. I think they lose focus on what's important. I see STCU helping the greater community outside of it to get better, to learn, to grow, and to progress. We're here to do good. We're here to help the greater good. We're very proud to be able to partner with STCU to that end. I think what is a better place to help the greater good than with helping kids? I'm Mike Marzetta, and STCU is here for good.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're back with Tom Johnson and Ezra Eckhardt. Tom, you've been leading STCU for the last 7-8 years, and Ezra, you're going to be taking over as of January 1, but have been plenty busy making the transition, as we've been discussing, making your way around and meeting many employees at the 21 current branches. Are you excited about this transition?
Absolutely, and I couldn't be more welcomed into the organization. Every one of the team members that I've met is excited about the future of the organization, and I think we can be proud of what we're going to accomplish because we know the great things that we've accomplished in the past.
What does a credit union, and specifically Spokane Teachers Credit Union, what are the variables of that type of organization versus maybe a traditional bank, if you will? What type of advantages does STCU have? And in the marketplace, if you will, in terms of gaining members, what would you say?
I had a great description a few years ago that was given to me about the difference between a bank and a credit union, and that is if you can picture yourself going in for a loan, at a bank you have three people at the table. You have yourself, you have the banker, and you have an investor. And an investor is a very critical part of that equation because
Absolutely.
they provide the liquidity and the capital, and that investor needs to be compensated for what they bring to the table. When you're at the credit union, there's only two people at the table. It's the borrower, the member, and the loan officer, because we as members own the credit union.
Right.
There are no other outside investors. So that changes the whole dynamic. It changes the dynamic in the workplace. It changes the dynamic in terms of the relationship between the member and the officer, the bank officer, the lending officer. And it's a resource that we lean on and use to every advantage that we can.
Tom, I think that's actually a critical point, though, that I think if you did hear criticisms of some of these traditional banks, it would be that coming in as a small business or medium-sized business, that you're not actually talking to the decision maker, if you will. And in your example, it's the investor that might be disassociated with that particular transaction. But if you're coming into STCU, it sounds like you're dealing with a member-owned entity that is, in fact, the investor themselves. They're
Right.
trying to make a decision that's for the betterment of the organization.
Right.
I think that's a
And
critical point.
part of our culture, we were talking about that before, in addition to the use of the word love, we have red alabaster hearts that are about 5 inches in diameter that are all over our organization that we've given to each other to set on the table to be a reminder that our job is to be here for the heart of the member. And every decision we make has to be for the best interest of the membership in total. So.
Well, and we were talking at the break initially about that concept, that when you first were presented with this idea of should these hearts, if you will, have a place at the table in conversations, in board meetings, your first reaction was,
Yeah, as a trained business person, it's not a natural place to go.
it's not generally in Chapter 1 of the MBA program.
Right, exactly.
So, and we were joking a bit off camera that as an attorney, everyone loves attorneys, right? I mean, we can obviously all agree on that.
Some of my favorite people are attorneys.
Right. Appreciate your sincerity there. But the point is, if that type of concept was presented in the traditional model of a law firm or bank or financial institution, I think a trained business person would have that same reaction, that really is this relevant for what our model is? And the reality is, it is. And I think STCU, and statistically, your membership and the upward momentum has proven that it does have a place.
Yeah. People want to trust their financial institution. They want to have a good relationship. The financial institution has my treasure.
Right.
And I want to be involved. I want to trust the people that have that treasure. And, we just try to fulfill that in the best way possible.
Well, I think that's certainly proving here in the Spokane community that is playing out. People do trust TCU and are excited to see where it goes. Ezra, with your background at West Point, again, Spokane native, Gonzaga prep, off to West Point, how has that type of education shaped your financial career, the organizations you've worked for, and of course now at STCU?
So the mission of West Point is to provide the nation leaders of character to serve in the common defense. And when I had to memorize that in 1988, I didn't actually really know what it meant. It was just another thing that I had to do.
Yeah.
And when I graduated in 1992, I thought that meant serve in the common defense, meaning be out on the frontiers defending
Military.
the nation. And what I came to realize over the course of the 90s is that serving in the common defense means supporting the nation through many different aspects. And for me, I had the great fortune of having a diversified business career, and I think I learned some of the leadership principles when I was in the military. I learned some principles around business management when I was at Honeywell and Microsoft. I learned some principles around financial management and banking operations when I was at Sterling here in Spokane. And really, I'd say the opportunity to join STCU is kind of the culmination of all of these experiences that I've had. And so in many ways, I've been uniquely sort of suited for the role because I've got a diverse background that's compounded by all of those experiences. And it kind of rang true when I was talking to the board around this is something that I can do to provide back to the community. And one of the elements that I'm sort of reinforcing with our employees is that every day we have the opportunity to engage employees. We've got leadership training programs, we've got professional development, we've got great tuition reimbursement, we've got an amazing 401k program, but that camaraderie that we're building really engages our employees so that they own the experience for our members. And those engaged employees create engaged members. And our members go around the community and they tell their friends and family about it, and they're the ones that espouse the love for us as an organization. And those engaged members create an engaged community. And so through that process, I'm able to be part of the team and to engage in making Spokane and the Inland Northwest and North Idaho great places. And this is where we want to be.
Well, and Ezra, I think a point you're making there also, as the leader, you can't necessarily be the one that is saying, hey, member, this is how you should think about us. That's just not how the psychology works. However, what you're describing all the way back to West Point in terms of leadership and the skills that you've learned over the years at Honeywell, Microsoft, Sterling, Umpqua, et cetera, you were a product of our experiences, and all of those pieces put together, now you're transitioning into yet another leadership position where the things you put in place for those members, I think you're so right, that's where it has to be the member that feels that love, as Thomas said, and that engagement. You can't necessarily just say, feel engaged. That's not how it works.
Make them love us.
Yeah, follow me. Well, and as a leader at West Point and otherwise, it's a different psychology that a leader just leads and then people follow. You can't just tell them. Well, maybe at West Point you can tell them to follow.
Now, what I learned in the Army was you can't tell anybody to do anything.
It has to be.
As soon as you start telling them to do something, they're not going to do it.
They have to want to.
And my kids help me learn this again every day. But I believe in the concept of teachable moments and having a teachable point of view and empowering the team to make good decisions. Because to your point, Tom was never going to be every place all the time to make every decision.
Can't be.
I'm not going to be every place all the time to make every decision. I want to support the learning process for our employees so that when they encounter an issue for a member, they can be a solution provider. And they'll have confidence that they have the weight of the organization behind them because we're thinking about the heart of the member in every decision.
Right.
So
they'll have the resources at their availability to make the decisions that you've led them to.
Absolutely.
It's exciting. Tom, how do you feel about this transition in that what's next for you?
Well, we have 5 grandchildren, and 3 are here in town. 2 are in Eugene, Oregon. So we're going to spend a little bit more time getting to see and be with our grandkids. We also have a son who's newly married in Seattle, so we'll have a chance to visit there. And we feel very fortunate to have all of our kids and their spouses and families within driving distance of Spokane. So we'll spend more time with family. We'll do a little traveling right out of the box in January. Going to go find someplace warm and sunny and
Good for you.
probably involve a little sand and kick back for 10 days or so. But beyond that, I actually am going to continue to be involved in our community. So I have been on the GSI board for a number of years, and this past year it came to pass that I was named the chair-elect of the board of GSI. So serving in that capacity right now in support of Todd Mielke and Jack Heath. And next September, October, I will take over as chair of GSI. So we'll be very involved.
You're not kicking back entirely.
Not on the community support side, no.
Yeah. Well, you've left a legacy at STCU. Ezra is going to continue that legacy. It's exciting to chat with you both, and look forward to having you come back and seeing where the progression of this organization and your future endeavors take you. So thank you
Great.
both very much for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks so
this is
much.
fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.